श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय। हरे कृष्ण। वंदे गुरुन् ईशभक्तान् ईशम् ईशवतारकान् तत्प्रकाशांश तत्शक्ति कृष्ण चैतन्य संज्ञकम् जगद्वैत ब्रह्मोपनिषदि तदप्यस्य तनोभावात्मान्तर्यामि पुरुष इति सोऽस्यांश विभव षडैश्वर्यपूर्णजयः भगवान् स्वयम् अयम् न चैतन्यात् कृष्णात् जगति परतत्त्वं परं यः अनार्पितचरिं चिरात् करुणयावतीर्न कलो समार्पयितुमन्मतवज्ज्वलरसां स्वभक्तिश्रियम् हरे पुरटसुन्दरद्यूति कदम्बसन्देपितो सदा हृदयकन्दरे स्फुरतु वसचिनन्दना राधा कृष्ण प्रणय विकृति लादिनी शक्ति अस्मात् एकात्मनावपि भुवि पुरा देहभेदं गतौ तौ चैतन्याख्यं प्रकटमधुना तद्वयं चैकमाप्तम् राधा भावद्युतिसुगलितम् नौमि कृष्णास्वरूपम् श्रीराधाय प्रणय महिमा कीदृशो वा नैवा स्वाद्यजेनाद्भुतमधुरिमा कीदृशो वा मदीय सौख्यं च स्यामदनुभवतो कीदृशं वेत्ति लोभा तद्भावाढ्यसमजनी शचिगर्भसिन्धौ हरिन्दु जयतां सुरतो पंगो मम मन्दमतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदाम्भोजो राधा मदनमोहन दिव्या बृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमा श्रीमद्रत्नागार सिंहासनस्थौ श्रीराधा शिवगोविन्द दिव्यो पृष्ठालीभिः सेव्यमानौ स्मरामि श्रीमान् रासरसारम्भी वंशीवटतटस्थिता कर्षन् वेणुष्वनैर्गोपी गोपीनाथस्य स्तुना श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण। Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he writes in Caitanya Caritamrita Adi Lila, chapter 13, text number 1 to 3, he says, Paya manush janma jena suni gauraguna hena janma tar vyartha hailo Payamrita dhuni piye visagarta pani janmiya se kene nahi mailo. He says, anyone who attains a human body, paya manushajan, jena sune gauragun, having taken human body, one does not take to the cult of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, his life is buckled. And Amrita Dhoni is a flowing river of the nectar of devotional service. If, after getting human body, one drinks the water in a poison pit of material happiness, instead of the water of such a river, that is Amrita Dhani, it would be better for him not to have lived, but to have died long ago. So we are now in this human body, and by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we have got the information about Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So we are trying to understand about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, his activities, through the study of Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita. So we are very grateful to the devotees who have given us this wonderful opportunity to go through the systematic study of Chaitanya Caritamrita. So today, being the first class, I have decided to speak from the life of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is the compiler of Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita. It's always good to know the author. And when we know about Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, we can pray unto his lotus feet so that he will bless us and we will able to enter into the pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by his mercy. So therefore, it is very essential for us to know about Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the beginning. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has compiled Chaitanya Caritamrita. This compilation of Chaitanya Caritamrita started near about 75 years after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance. And it took around 6 to 8 years to complete the work. Roughly, it is estimated that when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was around 91 years old, he started this work, Chaitanya Caritamrita. And therefore, he writes in Chaitanya Caritamrita, he says, Vriddha Jaratur Ami Andha Badhir. He's saying, now I am old, invalid. And because of invalidity, while I am trying to write, my hand trembles and I am not able to hear properly. I am not able to remember things properly. So this is what he has said. So in the early days of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, let us hear about what his life was like. First of all, we should know that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was born in a village called Jamatpur, which is near about maybe around 80 kilometers from Mayapur, 80 kilometers away from Mayapur. Uh, and he was born in a Ayurvedic physician family, Vaidya Parivar. His father was a Vaidya. Uh, and his father name was Bhagirath and his mother's name was Sunanda. He had another brother by the name Shyamdas, who was around 2 years younger to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. When Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was around 6 years old, uh, at that time, he lost his father. So, from his childhood, he was very much attached to Krishna Bhajan. It is said that he was a very calm and quiet boy. He would always respect the elders. He would never take part in mundane play. He was very controlled from his childhood. And he was having a lot of interest in Krishna Aradhan, worship of Lord Krishna from his childhood. After his father's departure, his mother was left with these two kids. You can see Krishnadas was 6 years old, his brother maybe around 4 years old. And mother was coming from a very poor family. So some or other, she was struggling to take care of these children. But by the will of the providence, she also left her body very soon. It was unbearable for her to tolerate the departure of Bhagirath. So she also left her body. Now these two small child were left under the care of his relatives. But as we said, Krishnadas was very much attached to Krishna, and his brother was not so much inclined. And it is said that his brother he had faith unto Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he did not believe on Nityananda. It is said that when they were around 16 years old, one day they had a Sankirtan program in their house. And there's a devotee of Nityananda Prabhu by the name Meen Ketan Ramdas, who was invited to attend the program, Sankirtan program. And when Meen Ketan Ramdas came to Krishnadas Goswami's house, Shyamdas, his brother, he started arguing with Meen Ketan Ramdas and finding fault with Nityananda Prabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was not very happy to see how his brother would accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he does not accept Nityananda Prabhu. At that time, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Dui bhai ekatanu saman prakash Nityananda namana tomar have sarvanash Ekete Vishwas Anye Nakar Samman Ardha Kukkuti Nyai Tomar Praman Kiva Dui Namanya Hota Pasanda eke mani are namani ei matavanda. So he said, my dear brother, these two, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, even though they have appeared in two different bodies, but they're actually same personality. And you believe on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but you don't believe on Nityananda Prabhu? What is this? Actually, you are following Ardha Kukkuta Nyaya. You know this Ardha Kukkuta Nyaya. And you are a Pashandi. You are an atheist. You are a cheater. He scolded his brother. But in the meantime, Minkatan Ramdas, he became very upset with his brother, Shamdas, and left the house of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was greatly pained the departure of Minkatan Ramdas from his house. And on that night, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami went to sleep with great pain. And he was praying to Nityananda Prabhu what he should do in this situation. So on that night, Srimad Nityananda Prabhu appeared to Krishnadas in his dream. And he instructed Krishnadas. He said, Krishnadas, Hare Hare Krishnadas, Nakarato bhai, Vrindavan jao tahan sarva labhya hai. My dear Krishnadas, oh Krishnadas, please go to Vrindavan. You will attain everything. All your desires will get fulfilled in Vrindavan. So upon hearing the blessing from Nityananda Prabhu, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he was ready to go to Vrindavan. And it so happened that next morning, as soon as he woke up, he didn't bother about anything. He just started his journey to Vrindavan. And when he arrived in Vrindavan, at that time, there are Rupa, Sanatan, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Goswami. And so all these Goswamis are there. So upon arriving in Vrindavan, he took shelter of 6 Goswamis. Therefore, in Chaitanya Caritamrita Adilila, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes that these 6 Goswamis are his Shiksha Gurus. There is also difference of opinion about who is the spiritual master of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Some says Raghunath Das Goswami was the spiritual master of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Some other says is that Gopal Bhatta Goswami, sorry, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, sorry, not Gopal Bhatta, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. And some other says Srimad Nityananda Prabhu. Anyway, while commenting Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he has accepted that Nityananda Prabhu was the spiritual master of Krishnadas. How? Let us hear the evidence, because this is beginning class. Of course, we'll discuss about it later on. This is from Adi Lila, chapter 1, text number 40 says, Nityananda Rai Prabhur Swarup Prakash Tar Par Padma Bandhu Jar Mui Das. While commenting on this verse, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has accepted Nityananda Prabhu as the spiritual master of Krishnadas. Why? Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, he says, particularly in this verse, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has mentioned that Nityananda Prabhu's Swarup Prakash and Muitar Das, Jar Mui Das. And then in next 44 verse, he says, Jadyapi Amar Guru Chaitanya Das, Tathapi Janiyami Tahar Prakash. So while commenting on this Prakash, this Swarup Prakash, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says, spiritual master is normally accepted as the manifestation of Krishna. So in that connection, we can accept Srimad Nityananda Prabhu as the spiritual master of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And I believe on this because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has accepted it. Sometimes our devotees nowadays in internet, they go on hearing from different sadhus, somebody maybe from Vrindavan, some other places. They may say something different. They may say Raghunath Bhatta, maybe they may say, or they may say Raghunath Das Goswami. But in fact, we should understand what was his connection with Raghunath Das Goswami. First of all, we should know that Raghunath Das Goswami, after he left West Bengal, he came to Puri to take shelter of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. At that time, Raghunath Das Goswami was entrusted to Swarup Damodar Goswami. Therefore, it is said that Swarupe Raghu, he belongs to Swarup Damodar Goswami. And he was very closely connected with Sriman Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. And Srila Raghunath Das Goswami had very closely witnessed the Antyalila pastime of Sriman Mahaprabhu while staying in Puri. Antyalila pastime of Sriman Mahaprabhu is very intimate. And after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ended his manifest pastimes, and after Swarup Damodar Goswami went back to the spiritual world to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there, Raghunath Das Goswami was feeling intense separation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar Goswami. And he decided in himself, what is the point in living in this world, in the separation of Sriman Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar Goswami? I should better go to Vrindavan and I will climb onto Govardhan and jump off the hill. That is how I must end my life. While thinking like this, he came to Vrindavan. And upon meeting with the Goswamis like Rupa and Sanatan, they convinced him, no, this is not, you should plan for your life. You have better cause to perform for Mahaprabhu. So at that time, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami had arrived in Vrindavan. Now you can imagine, according to our understanding, so Raghunath Das Goswami have been accepted as the chief of Rupa So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, upon arriving in Vrindavan, he was having close association with Raghunath Das Goswami. And it is explained that he learned the Srupanuga sadhana mostly from Raghunath Das Goswami. Therefore, some says uh, that Raghunath Das Goswami is his guru. So here, one thing is kind of very interesting point to take a note on for us as a sadhaka. In our line, uh, we can take diksha from our spiritual master, and at the same time, you can take shiksha from others. Like here in this case, we can see he was very much close to Raghunath Das Goswami, and he perfected his bhajan sadhana. Anyway, so Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he continued his spiritual journey while staying in Vrindavan under the able guidance of the Goswamis. And it is said that Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has compiled many literature. Chaitanya Caritamrita is one of those. And he has written Sri Govinda Lilamritam, which deals with the confidential pastimes of Radha and Krishna, Ashtakalya Lila Smaran. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also is very well known and revered amongst the Vaishnavas for his commentary called Saranga Rangada Tika to Krishna Karnamritam. These are Rasa Granthas. He was a very highly elevated personality. So, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, while he was in Vrindavan, on those days, you can see, as I mentioned, around 75 years after Mahaprabhu's departure, he started compiling Chaitanya Caritamrita. This is obvious question that what was the literature available for the devotees before Chaitanya Caritamrita to release the pastimes of Srimad Mahaprabhu? Of course, there were a few literatures available by them, which was compiled by different devotees, such as there was Murari Gupta's Karcha, means diary, which mostly deal with the Navadvip pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Swarup Damodar Goswami's Karcha, which deals mostly about the Antya Lila, the final pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then we have Kavi Karnapur, he has written Sri Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak, Chaitanya Chandamrita Mahakavya. Lochan Das Thakur has written Chaitanya Mangal. Vrindavan Das Thakur had written Chaitanya Bhagavat. So the devotees in Vrindavan, they would always take shelter of Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Mangal, Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natakam, all the literatures. But because nobody had compiled the Antyalila pastime of Srimad Mahaprabhu so far, so devotees were hankering, they were searching for some literature how they can release the Antyalila pastime of Srimad Mahaprabhu. Even though Chaitanya Bhagavat was compiled by Vrindavan Das Thakur prior to Chaitanya Charitamrita, as we know from Gaur Ganadhya's Deepika, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is, Vrindavan Das Thakur is in Sakhyaras, who was a devotee of Nityananda Prabhu. And being in Sakhyaras, his identification had been given Kusumapid, Shakha. So he did not have access to describe the confidential pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was releasing the pastime of the Lord Krishna with gopis. So when you read Chaitanya Bhagavat, you will see that he is not so much elaborately described about the Antilila pastime. So now devotees were thinking, who can compile this for us? And then they requested Krishnadas, because Krishnadas was the elderly person and he was a very, very learned Vaishnava scholar of the day. So devotees requested him, Krishnadas, you must compile Antilila pastime of Srimad Mahaprabhu for us. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, a genuine Vaishnava, totally felt unqualified to compile this literature. And in fact, he says, Purusel Kit Haite Muisha Lagista, Jagai Madhai Haite Muisha Papista. I am more degraded than Jagai and Madhai. My position is more abominable than a worm in the stool. And even he says, anyone who takes my name, Tar Punya Hoy, he becomes deprived of the piety. You can imagine such a humble Vaishnava. And he was not thinking that he is qualified to compile Caitanya Caritamrita. But as devotees kept on insisting him, there was regular request coming to Krishnadas to compile Caitanya Caritamrita. Then finally he decided that, okay, I'll do it. But before I start, I must go to Madan Gopal and pray. If Madan Gopal gives sanctions me, and then I will start writing. So one day he came to Madan Gopal's temple in Mandavan, and he was praying sincerely to Madan Gopal. There was a pujari in the temple by the name Gosai Das. And this Gosai Das was there. As Krishnadas prayed to Madan Gopal, and he offered his prostrated obeisances to the deities, all of a sudden the garland from the deity fell off. That was the indication for Krishnadas. And Gosai Das, the pujari, he brought the garland and he gave to Krishnadas. He said, my dear Krishnadas, now Madan Gopal has sanctioned your desire. Now you should start. And while in the temple itself, he started actually. He says, Agyamala Payamur Hairo Ananda. By getting the order in form of garland falling off the deity, I became very jubilant. And Tahai Karinu E Grantheraram. At that time, I started writing Chaitanya Charitamrita. So you can imagine, the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is not to be taken as any ordinary literature. In the words of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, let me tell you, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I have a request to the readers of Chaitanya Charitamrita. They should not accept this book, this literature, in the category of any history or any kind of mundane literature. Just like a sincere student, he studies Vedanta Shastra, Rasa Shastra, under the able guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Devotees must carefully study this from the bona fide guru. And then he continues that this literature is describing the pure devotional service reflected in the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It should never be accepted in the light of the Mayavadi commentaries and the commentaries of Sahajiya Baul Vaishnavas. He is very clearly explaining this. And he says that by following this mode, anyone who reads this, I'm confident that they will get the mercy of Sriman Mahaprabhu. So if you come to Bengal today and go to Bangladesh, you'll find there are so many Sahajiya Vaishnavas who have given mundane interpretation to this Chaitanya Caritamrita. They have distorted the meaning, the mood. And in fact, we have information from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. After Sriman Mahaprabhu's departure, some unscrupulous people have distorted the teaching of Sriman Mahaprabhu to such a degree. No gentleman in the society was accepting Vaishnava cult. But by the mercy of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we have got this information from Chaitanya Caritamrita, and we have the bona fide commentary of our acharyas. Therefore, we say that, of course, Prabhupada, he has followed the commentary of Amrita Pravaha Bhashya of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Anubhashya of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur while giving Bhaktivedanta purports to Chaitanya Caritamrita. So, we will, from time to time, refer to that also to understand the authenticity of our Chaitanya Caritamrita. Srila Prabhupada has spoken very high of this literature. I would just like to read a few points from Prabhupada's introduction. Prabhupada says, actually, the Chaitanya Charitamrita is not intended for the novice, for it is the postgraduate study of spiritual knowledge. Ideally, one begins with the Bhagavad Gita and advances through Srimad Bhagavatam to the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Although all these great scriptures are on the same absolute level, for the sake of comparative study, the Chaitanya Charitamrita is considered to be on the highest platform. Every verse in it is perfectly composed. Now, after hearing this, you may ask this question to me, my dear devotee, my dear Prabhu, why are you choosing this literature to be taught them? If it's postgraduate study, how many devotees can? Well, therefore, while inviting enrollment for the course, we have very strict scrutinizing system, scrutiny. What is that? Many of you have responded to the questionnaire because we wanted to test what is the depth of your understanding about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada. And of course, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he writes जेबा नहीं बुझे के हो सुनीते सुनीते सह कि अद्भुत चैतन्य चरित कृष्णे उपजीवेर प्रीति জানিবে রসের রীতি শুনিলেই বড় হয় হিত if one does not understand in the beginning but continues to hear again and again ki adbhuta chaitanya charita, the wonderful effect of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes will bring love for Krishna, Krishna upajiva priti, and janive rasarati. Gradually, one will come to understand the loving affairs between Krishna and the gopis and other associates of Vrindavan. Everyone is advised to continue to hear over and over again in order to greatly benefit. Sunilei bada hoy, Prabhupada is saying, translating is saying, everyone is advised to continue to hear. And we have very carefully selected the topics what we're going to go through in your association. We are not going to go into very confidential subject matter from Chaitanya Caritamrita. We will be just looking at the teachings, which are very, very helpful for the sadhakas like us, which will help us to get grounded in Krishna Bhajan and Krishna Bhakti. So, as I was mentioning this morning, that this Chaitanya Charitamrita should be studied from Mayapur Dham. We are here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace. Why we cannot, we should give this opportunity to everyone. Everyone should, read this, hear about it. So, in this connection, I would like to bring to your attention one thing, that actually, my dear devotees, when you read Chaitanya Charitamrita in Bangla, originally written in Bengali language, Bangla language, there is a different kind of rasa you can release. Taste is there. And the mood, the way it's compiled, every syllable. Like, you feel like you're drinking the nectar. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, he has said that the time will come when the people of the world will learn Bengali to read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. As Vidhan Gauranga Prabhu mentioned this morning, we very much desire our devotees to know Bengali, Sanskrit, to be able to release the original writings of our acharyas. But anyway, at this point in time, not many devotees know Bengali. Maybe it will take a few generations since Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has desired it. It will happen. It's a question of time. We don't have to worry about it right now. And the book is out. It's available for us. And many of you have already completed Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaiva, Bhakti Vedanta. On your own, you might have completed other literatures also, and you are very much curious to know. So we are thinking, let us study this book. And Srila Prabhupada has revealed his mood in preface. He says, there is no difference between the teachings of Lord Chaitanya presented here and the teachings of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. The teachings of Lord Chaitanya are practical demonstrations of Lord Krishna's teachings. That means, when you read this Chaitanya Charitamrita, as a sadhaka, by listening to the commentary given by Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, you will learn how I should practice Krishna Bhakti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to teach us the direct worship of Lord Krishna. We know this. But how to do that? That he has taught us. That is reflecting in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in his teachings. his behavior. So we are not meant to get carried away by the propaganda of so-called yogis who just administer the yoga practices to some newcomers to elevate their Krishna conscious experience. No, Prabhupada is saying, even though the modern yoga practice recommends 8 steps, and he says, let me read out, no one can stop a child from one minute. Okay, let me read this. He's saying, because the soul is active all the time. So since we are active, so Prabhupada is saying that no one can stop a child from playing by leaving him inactive. The child can be stopped from engaging in nonsense by being engaged in superior activities. Similarly, the forceful restraint of sense activities by the 8 principles of yoga is recommended for inferior man. Superior man, being engaged in the superior activities of Krishna consciousness, naturally retire from the inferior activities of material existence. So that means here you hope for us that when we study this Chaitanya Caritamrita carefully, it will definitely help us to attain the qualification which will eventually cease all our engagement to the inferior material activities. Definitely. That is the blessing Prabhupada is giving us. In fact, Prabhupada says that the Mayavadis, they feel when the sadhaka attains perfection, understanding, ultimately the Supreme Lord is impersonal, he stops speaking. That is the understanding of Mayavada school. And Prabhupada says, but in Vaishnava understanding, when a devotee attains perfection, that time only he speaks. Because he understands, for so many years I have been speaking nonsense. Now let me speak Krishna Katha. So, my dear devotee, if we don't listen to Chaitanya Charitamrita, how will we know? So it is very essential for the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that we should read this book. How Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given so much emphasis to the Sankirtan movement. This Sankirtan movement is supposed to awaken love of God in the devotees. How is it actually happening in the life of the devotees? The practical demonstration have been shown in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada, while giving his blessings, as you know, in the beginning, when any writer he starts writing, they reveals 3 things. One thing is Sri Mangalajana Trividha Prakar, Vastu Nirdesh, Ashirvad, or Namaskar. So benediction is part of the writing. And Prabhupada, while giving Ashirvad, benediction to the readers, he says, I sincerely hope that by understanding the teachings of Lord Chaitanya presented in this book, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, human society will experience a new light of spiritual life, which will open the field of activity for the pure soul. Wow. I know when I was reading this, Prabhu, I can tell you, I was, relishing like anything. See the, magnanimity of Prabhupada. But we are totally unqualified. But he's saying, I sincerely hope, oh, this is the, desire of our founder Acharya, that by studying this Chaitanya Charitamrita, we will experience the new light of spiritual life, and which will open the field of activity for the pure soul. Uh, Actually, in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur's commentary in introduction to Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says that um, by hearing about the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one becomes automatically freed from the material contamination. Gaura Vihita Kirtana Shuni Ananda Hridaya Nache. This is from Saranagati. Gaura Vihita Kirtana. Upon hearing that kirtan, which is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my heart is thrilled with ecstasy. So, therefore, we are taking this book to study by looking at the commentaries of our acharyas. And in this book, we know there are three divisions, which is Adilila, Madhyalila, and Antalila section. Adilila mostly deals with the Navadip pastime before taking sannyas, and Madhyalila after taking sannyas. That is the most elaborate part. It has got, I think, 25 chapters in Madhyalila, I believe so. And then we have got Antyalila. Antyalila has got around 20 chapters, yes. And it is revealing the last 18 years of Mahaprabhu pastimes in Puri. You find this Gambhira Lila is also there. So we are not going to, as I said, going to look in detail to all these pastimes, but we will be just going through the teachings from Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we'll try to understand